In Yemen, it seemed as if Iran and the Houthis were winning. They had been making significant gains, and the forces meant to stop their expansion campaign across the crucial yet war-torn country seemed defeated. Fatigued, the Saudi-led coalition had almost given up on Yemen. It was as if they had accepted a Houthi victory. The Yemen War is considered the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced from their homes while thousands have lost their lives. Despite such destruction, for Iran to emerge as a victor would indeed be a shame of the highest order and a slap right on the face of Saudi Arabia. Riyadh would actually lose its claim to fame of being the leader of the Muslim world, as Iran would have publicly humiliated it in its own backyard. But it seems like Saudi Arabia has quickly bounced back. It is back in Yemen, and it has killed hundreds of Iran-backed Houthi militants in a single offensive operation. And all of a sudden, the scales seem to be tilting in favor of the Saudi coalition once again. This is because Saudi Arabia has realized that a defeat in Yemen is going to have devastating effects for it. Hi and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Shubhangi, and in this video I will tell you how one operation in Yemen by Saudi Arabia has pulled the rug right from under Iran's feet. Let's begin. The Saudi-led coalition, which is fighting the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen, seems to have energized its efforts to free the war-torn country from Iran's proxies. The Yemen War essentially stems from the geographical position of Yemen. The war-torn country overlooks the Bab el-Mandab Strait, which is between the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean, which implies that anyone exercising influence in Yemen can control this strategic choke point and the sea route through the Indian Ocean. For Iran and Saudi Arabia, fighting for Yemen was essentially rooted in a desire to control the crucial Bab el-Mandab Strait as a part of their larger geopolitical ambitions. However, Saudi Arabia and its coalition have been on the back foot, and Iran-backed Houthis have been consolidating their position in Yemen for quite some time now. In fact, Saudi's own security has been imperiled as Houthis keep attacking the Sunni Muslim kingdom with ballistic missiles and drones at Iran's behest. It almost seemed as if Saudi Arabia had given up all hopes of winning the battle against the Iran-backed Houthis. Saudi Arabia and its forces were fatigued, and that is why it wanted to negotiate peace with Iran. But Iran had the upper hand, and it continued to show that peace was not an option. Despite Iran's rogue nature, Saudi's machinations have of late been reeking of fatigue and an interest to pull out of Yemen. But surprisingly, over the past weekend, the Saudi-led coalition launched an unprecedented offensive against Houthis in central Yemen, resulting in almost 320 casualties on both sides. The Yemeni government, powered by the Saudi-led coalition, launched a military operation to reclaim Bayda from the Iran-backed Houthis. Fighting in Bayda came as the Houthis attempted to break through government defenses in the strategic city of Marib, also located in central Yemen. The Houthis have been attempting since February to capture it from the internationally recognized and Saudi-backed government, which would complete their control over the northern part of Yemen. According to the Associated Press, most of the casualties belonged to the Houthi camp. In a televised statement, Yahya Sari, a military spokesman for the Houthis, claimed his organization could stop the Saudi-backed forces from advancing in the province in 3 days. Evidently, such claims have fallen flat on their face as Saudi Arabia resumes pounding Houthis in Yemen once again with renewed vigor. According to global research, the Houthis are on the defensive in Bayda. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia continues its daily airstrikes in addition to hundreds of ceasefire violations in Al Hudaydah, despite claiming that the same have stopped. As per a recent Brookings report, both Saudi Arabia and the UAE are seeking to consolidate their strategic positions in Yemen. In controlling the Mara region in Yemen, Saudis have gained direct access to the Indian Ocean with plans to build a pipeline from the kingdom's eastern province to the sea, thereby avoiding dependence on the Strait of Hormuz, which is dominated by Iran. The UAE, on the other hand, in occupying Mayoon and Socotra islands in Yemen, would be in a key position to control the Bab al Mandab and the Gulf of Aden, while also gathering intelligence on maritime traffic in the region. Meanwhile, Israel is becoming actively involved with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and it seems now Britain too is going out of its way to help the Saudis in their efforts against Houthis in Yemen. As reported by TFI recently, British personnel are being based at Al Ghaida airport in the Mara governorate of eastern Yemen, where Saudi forces oversee a jail camp. According to the investigation by NGO Campaign Against Arms Trade, UK government's arms sales to Saudi Arabia since Riyadh began its campaign in Yemen have totaled to around £20 billion. Israel too seems to be sending its operatives to strategic islands in the Gulf of Aden under the guise of tourists. Reported by TFI, it is likely that Israel is building a spy base in Socotra to take on the Houthis and keep an eye on Iran's moves in the region. The Yemen War seems to have entered a decisive phase, and the Saudi-led coalition is set to make gains hereon. It seeks to relentlessly pound the living daylights out of the Iran-backed Houthis and their Iranian backers. Reports suggest that Saudi Arabia and Iran have been engaged in secret talks. Now, with Saudi's renewed offensives in Yemen, Riyadh is approaching the negotiating table with a position of strength. For so long, the Houthis and Iran had the upper hand against the Saudi-led coalition during the negotiations. That dynamic seems to be rapidly changing, and the Houthis seem to be on the back foot for the very first time in a long time. Saudi Arabia seems to have inflicted heavy casualties on the Iran-backed organization, and moving forward, it appears determined to consolidate its position in Yemen, defend its soil and its trade.